Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Robert Press, official reporter for the Bronx Chronicle, Parrot TV, Talking Politics, the Co-op City News, and Parkchester Times. Let me start off with and welcome you to the show and say, let's go into the weather report. We should have a high of 69 degrees, maybe hitting 70 today. And the weekend looks wonderful or beautiful. So into politics. Donald Trump is back in his Florida home after his second visit to New York. First, it was Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg who went after Trump for allegedly using monies to pay someone who allegedly paid someone to have sex with Donald Trump. Then it was New York State Attorney General Letitia James who had Trump on the stand for 7 hours with the Donald, as I mentioned last week. Hopefully, there'll be no one else calling Donald Trump back to New York. And we've seen already some members of Congress have come to New York to refute what has gone on. And they're calling New York an unsafe place. But why, if it's unsafe, why did they come here? Next item. George Santos. Well, George Santos made it official that he is filing for re-election with the Federal Elections Commission. He filed the required paperwork in 2024 to run in 2024, and he now has $5,333 and change in his treasury so far this year. Let's compare that to a couple of other members of Congress. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has raised $3,676,281 for the first quarter of the year. And my good friend, Congresswoman Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez, has raised $1,268,221 so far for this, again, the 3 months ending March 21st, 2023. And I keep getting solicitations from my good friend, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, but I try to put up everything I can from her without any donations. I do not like putting donations on my blog at www.100%blogspot.com. I'd like to put up information like I used to put up the daily COVID numbers until Governor Hochul decided, well, we no longer need to put up the COVID numbers since COVID is no longer a problem in New York State. Speaking of New York State, our budget is still late. It's 20 days late. What that means is that the state legislators, the senators, and the assembly members haven't been paid since April 1st. They put in a provision, though, that their staff gets paid because 1 year when the budget was late by a month, the staff didn't get paid either. However, and this is what the state Senate and state assembly are looking at, why is the governor getting paid? You know, all of us shouldn't be getting paid if the assembly members and the senators aren't getting paid. Why is the governor getting paid, they say? But some of the sticking points that have to still be hammered out, according to Assemblyman Carl Hastie, that's his quote, we just have to hammer out a few items, is the continued changes that the governor wants to the so-called, as she calls it, controversial limits on cash bail and the elimination of what is called the least restrictive conditions for defendants to show up in court. In essence, that means don't throw them in Rikers Island, but we have to do something to make sure they show up for their appearance in court. Also, what looks to be dead is the governor's goal of 800,000 new housing units, affordable housing units, especially trying to force them on suburban counties like Westchester County, Nassau, Suffolk County. You just can't buy your way into these areas, Governor Hochul. And that's what she was trying to do, offer money to have them build affordable housing. Now, the state Republican party chair, Ed Cox, has released the following statement, and I'm going to read it word for word. Today, New York's late budget will extend into its third week after Governor Hochul and the Democratic leadership in the state legislature pass another budget extender and send their members home for the weekend. The failure of the leadership clearly demonstrates that government by 3 Democrats in the room is not working for the people of New York State. Even more worse, the Democrats refuse to recognize the impact of their dangerous cashless bail law on the safety of their communities and their plans to supersede local control over zoning, raise property taxes by over $1 billion, and increase the MTA payroll tax are opposed by an overwhelming majority of New Yorkers. Despite the governor's rhetoric, the Democratic agenda will not make our state safer, more affordable, or more livable, and their inability to pass an on-time state budget is further evidence of the need to restore common sense Republican leadership to state government. That was the comments of New York State Party leader Ed Cox. I just read his comments there. I may agree with some of his comments, but I may also disagree with some of his comments. Now, New York State finally has a chief judge, as we saw that the person that Governor Hochul put up, Judge LaSalle, he was not voted in. He was basically tossed out by the state Senate. But we have Judge Rowan Wilson, who is now the chief judge of the Court of Appeals, and he was put up by the governor, and he was confirmed by the entire state Senate. I believe the vote was something like 40-19 for him. Now, here's an item that's been hidden a little, that Governor Hochul has paid $2 million to big consulting firms and what's called outside ghostwriters to help prepare her State of the State address. This is mandated by the law that she create this State of the State address, and sometimes it can take months to prepare. So it's about let's see, what was it? It's 749-page document, and obviously the governor can't write it alone, and her staff would need help on it too. Locally in New York City, there was a 4-story building in Lower Manhattan that was used for a parking garage that collapsed Wednesday, killing 1 person and injuring 5 others. The building is located at 57 Ann Street in Lower Manhattan. It is said that the building had 11-foot cracks in the walls and had several violations. It's also said that they stored several electric cars there, and the batteries in the electric cars make these electric cars much more heavier than a normal gas-powered car. So it is believed that the added weight of these electric cars could have also contributed into the building falling, in addition to the violations. Now, some of these cars were up on the 4th floor. They dropped down all the way into the basement, and the collapse happened about 4:20 p.m. Cars are still being taken out of the wreckage. According to one report, the building continued to crumble as firefighters began their search for survivors, whereas Mayor Eric Adams deployed the New York City Police Department's robot dog, I hope I get his name right, I don't want him to bite me, Digidos, D-I-G-I-D-O-S, as well as the drones that the mayor reactivated for the police department to use their cameras to assist in the dangerous areas to prevent any loss of life. Now, Mayor Eric Adams also has released his plan. Well, it's actually Plot in New York, NYC, P-L-A-N-Y-C. So you want to call it Plan YC or Plot NYC, which are incentives to focus on protecting New Yorkers from climate threats, improving quality of life, and building the green economy. As it's called by Mayor Adams, his Plan NYC is getting sustainability done. New York's long-term strategic climate plan. It includes implementing climate budgeting to align city resources with sustainability and resiliency goals, to maximize funds from the state and federal governments in their grants. Leadership by example, the Public Solar Initiative. I'm only paraphrasing this. You can find more of this on my blog at www.100%.blogspot.com. The 100 is 100. It gives you the full details and breakdowns. I'll continue he wants to bring in the public sector as an initiative, protecting New Yorkers from climate threats and reducing carbon emissions. He wants to reduce the city's carbon emissions from food by 33% by 2030. He's releasing a new integrated emission inventory, so we know how much emissions are in the city. He's reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 8% in the manufacturing of concrete for the Department of Design and Construction projects by using limestone cement in place of ordinary Portland cement. Now, I never heard of Portland cement. I'm not going to make a joke here and say, do they import it from Portland? But the next goal is to achieve a 30% tree canopy representing 15,388 additional acres of tree canopy. Now, my question there on that point is, if you want to increase the tree canopy, why are you putting projects where trees are and you're cutting down trees? For instance, the Croton water filtration plant is a perfect example where parkland was alienated so they could put this big water filtration plant because the Croton water does not meet the current standards and it has to be filtered. So it was put in Van Cortlandt Park where hundreds of trees were cut down, and we're getting new buildings where trees are being cut down. So you're losing trees more than you're gaining trees, much like the police department. You're losing more cops than new cops are coming in. That was an issue, and that's another issue, but that I can't talk about right now. He wants to continue to design and construct world-class neighborhood and scale coastal protection projects, which is going on, and that's a good idea. He wants bringing climate-strong community programs to low-lying areas of the city and developing an air quality, developing air quality monitoring program to understand air quality impacts of pollution within neighborhoods and improving regulations and rules. Let me stop here for my mid-show commercial, and when we come back, I'll have more, which will include at the end of the show. It is now open turkey season as of May 1st. So let me go to the commercial now, please.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you.
Welcome back, and unfortunately, I'm going to have bad news for renters in rent-stabilized buildings because the Rent Guidelines Board has come out with its preliminary guidelines for 1 and 2 year leases, which aren't nice. They have come out with 8.75% for a 1 year lease and 15.75% for a 2 year lease. Tenants are going to cry they can't afford such an increase, while landlords are going to say they need larger increases because of inflation. I think most likely the increase should be anywhere from 6 to 8% for a 1 year lease and 10 to 15% for a 2 year lease. Again, costs have gone up. I know I used to live in a rent stabilized apartment, and the one thing I liked about Mayor de Blasio was for about 5 years, there was a 0% increase in my lease. Now, before I go into my election report, there seems to be problems on Community Board 11. There are request for the borough president to investigate 3 members, and there was an executive board meeting last night on Community Board 11, which the district manager said there's a request for action email. That was item number 3 on the executive board agenda. The executive board on Community Board 11 is just the 5 officers of Community Board 11. Other boards, like the board I served on, Community Board 8, includes the committee chairs as part of their executive board, and they are not appointed by the chair as on Board 11. On Board 8, all committee chairs are elected like the officers are elected. Board 11 chooses to have what's called a leadership committee, which includes the committee chairs, but they have a separate executive committee of officers. It was explained that there was an email requesting the action of behavior of one of the board members by the district manager being called into question. So in order to discuss this, the district manager said, I think because, and the next word was unclear, as I listened to the tape about a dozen times, I couldn't understand it. So he said, I think it's because, then he said, let me check the handbook. That's the community board handbook, which says when you can and when you can't go into executive session. There was a silence for about 30 seconds. And he said, we have an email request since Monday about the actions and behavior of a board member, and correct me if I am wrong, where the chair, Bernadette Ferrara, said, and the rest of the board that may want to discuss this. The district manager said you can close the meeting if you want to discuss items of a sensitive matter, particularly matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, and removal of a particular person or corporation that takes and board member. So I don't know personally if they were allowed legally to go into that, but he basically said, I think everybody gets the board chair said, I think everybody gets the gist of what the subject matter is, and there is no vote on this by the executive board. The district manager then said, so, and the chair said, as per our bylaws, the district manager says, if the committee wants to discuss this matter of a particular board member, you should take a vote to go into executive session. That means that we will close the meeting to the public, and anyone online will be put in a waiting room until this meeting is ended. It just so happens that meeting ran to 7 p.m. when the next meeting began, and they came back to say they discussed it, and then we're going into the next meeting. Now, I don't know which particular member this was. There were 3 members that have been questioned, that questions have been brought about. I mentioned one last week. I myself have asked the borough president to look in the what I call political activities of the board chair in asking me to remove a competitor, an article from the Bronx Times about a competitor. I believe that the board chair used her influence for political purposes. And yes, Kevin, several board members have code of conduct complaints. That is exactly what I'm talking about. The Just Home debacle, though, was not in a board meeting. It was a public hearing, and it was outside the board's confinement. Now, so much said for Community Board 11. And the borough president, I've applied to Community Board 11 with my experience, and I hope the borough president appoints me to Community Board 11, as I am mentoring some members right now, and other members, even longtime members, have asked me for help on land use matters, since I am what's considered an expert on land use. Now, as we go into the political part, the petitioning, the Board of Elections right now has received all specifications 2 objections. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of petitions. And unfortunately, this happens to me, as you can see the name on top, Bernadette Ferrara. I am not going after Ms. Ferrara. I did not challenge her petition. I'm not going after her in court. But this is a picture of a page where you can see up top where the date is supposed to go next to the person's signature. There is no date. If I could have the next photo. Here is a photo of the date on top, if you can see, is March 20th, 2023, whereas the witness is signing that I saw this witness and I signed it March 2nd, 2023. That you can't do. You can't witness something before the person signs it. The next slide, please. Here is something where there is no witness statement at all. Someone has to witness a signature. They have to fill out their name, their address, and sign that they witnessed the signature and fill in the date. This is nothing on the bottom. Next slide. Here again is no date on top. This is a different person, and you can see the person signed their name on the bottom though. On the next slide, you'll see this is the same person, but it's just initials down there, which I would say, and I don't know if this was true, because the way the initials are different from the way the person writes their name or even signs their name. If this person collected many pages and they never on any other page had their L look like that. So I don't know. From what I understand, the petition was challenged, but no specs were put into the objection because this would be considered fraud, and the Board of Election does not rule on fraud. You have to go to court. And I believe there's one more picture. Again, here is where the date on the bottom is crossed out. It looks like it was 3/20 that was crossed out to 3/10. When corrections are made, the witness has to initial any correction. So that would be thrown out too. So we don't know if that's 3/10, 3/20, and why would they change 3/20 from 3/10? Because if the date on the bottom is after the date on top, that's fine. It's just that the date on the bottom has to be after, but so changing the date, I don't understand why that happened, but we find out later and you really can't see it, but the signature and the address are in blue ink, whereas the dates and the bottom part are filled in black ink, which tells me that the signature was gathered by somebody and then handed in, and the dates were filled in and the name on the bottom was filled in. I am not alleging anything here. It's up to the courts. The person who challenged has, I believe, up to April 24th to file a court case about this. I looked at this petition, and I can say that I believe there is enough alleged fraud in there to knock this candidate off the ballot. So let me go into what the Board of Elections, who had what. There were specs filed against district attorney, or rather, pardon me, there were objections filed against, we can get away with the picture. There were objections filed to the petitions of Darcel Clark, the current district attorney, but no specifications were filed. Several council members had their petitions objected to, but nothing was filed. And here's what's filed. Andy King, who is running for his old seat, specifications were filed to the general objections of his petition. Gonzalo Duran, who is running for the 17th council seat against current councilman and land use chair in the city council, Rafael Salamanca, the specifications to the objections were filed. It appears that George Havarack, specifications were filed to the objections of his Republican and Conservative Party, but there's a note here that they were filed late, so those specifications may be thrown out. As we go to the 81st Assembly District, all of the Democratic delegates to the Judicial Convention on the anti-Ben Franklin line, what's happening in the 81st Assembly District, the Ben Franklin Club has been the powerhouse in the 81st Assembly District, but last year, the Ben Franklin Club lost the positions of the male and female district leader and the female state committee person. All they have is the state committee man. So it is going to be a battle for the next couple of years up in the 81st Assembly District. And they have challenged all the delegates and alternate delegates to their judicial convention put forth by the new Unity Democratic Club. So the Board of Elections will have to rule on that. Now, Phyllis Tiz Nastasio, specifications were filed against her Republican and conservative petitions, and I was told that she may be off completely of the conservative line because the corrections she made to a cover sheet were inaccurate. But that's only hearsay. I can't say that for sure, but I can tell you that specifications were put in against her petitions on both the Republican and conservative line. And the last one by the Board of Elections, Rachel Bradshaw, specifications were put in against her. And those, plus the other boroughs, are what the Board of Elections will be ruling on. And again, this is from the Board of Elections. You can see right there. And I was at the Board of Elections yesterday and requested that. Now, as far as it goes, we're in phase 2, where the Board of Elections will be looking at those petitions that specifications have been filed for. They will see if, any one of maybe 25 to 50 different uses of that. The correction was an initial, no first name, wrong address. There's about 50. I can tell you, I've challenged petitions. I've knocked off candidates. The best one is I knocked off a school board candidate many years ago, and we were called to the back room of the Board of Elections. And this guy had one of the election commissioners trying to get his signatures back on, and it wound up that he couldn't get him on, so he wanted it done. He said the Bronx Board of Elections did 3 different counts of this petition, and they got 3 different numbers. And he insulted that Bronx Board of Elections commissioner, who happened to be Maria Baez, who was a friend of mine, and he wanted another count in his borough of Manhattan. I was asked if I'm available. I said, no, I'm going out of the country for a month. And I said, well, I have him off. You ruled him off the ballot, and this commissioner is doing such a good job that he wants him back on the ballot. I suggest he go to court and have the commissioner represent them, and you don't do that in front of the Board of Elections. So the commissioner then said, I make a motion, we put this guy back on. I asked, how many signatures does he have? He then made a motion, I put him on with enough signatures. And unfortunately, this is what used to go on at the Board of Elections, and I hope it has stopped, but I don't know, we'll have to see this year. Now, for my last item, the Department of Environmental Conservation for the state of New York has announced that it is now turkey season. It is turkey season everywhere in New York State except New York City and Nassau County. Hunting is permitted in those areas. Hunters must have a turkey hunting permit in addition to their hunting license. Shooting hours are from 1/2 hour before sunrise to noon each day. Some other items are they want people to hunt safe and hunt smart, to point your gun in a safe direction, treat every gun as if it was loaded, and forgive me for laughing, be sure of your target and beyond, keep your finger on the trigger until ready to shoot. Stalking stinks, sit with your back against a tree or other object wider than your shoulders and call birds to you. They also have tips for a successful, safe turkey hunting season, and they want you to buy sporting licenses online. So if you're into turkey hunting season begins May 1st, and I will close our show with that. And I hope there are no turkeys out there that shoot other turkey hunters. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.
Do you wish your business makes it to the top list of the most searched for business in the US and around the world? Or are you searching for halal compliant services and products online? then Halal Finder is your online resource directory pointing you to the right places and products. Let's help you explore halal products and services of your choice as we manage many halal businesses across the world. Promote your business with halalfinder.com, the only plug you need to grow. Our services include business listing, digital marketing, branding strategy, SEO campaigns, crowdfunding, and humanitarian support. On our Compassion Corner, we offer crowdfunding of halal ventures and humanitarian services. In this section, you can make or receive donations, start donation campaign, and check existing donation campaigns. And by paying zakat and sadaqah to our Compassion platform on halalfinder.com, you have supported the poor, widows or widowers, orphans, and the likes around the world. Contact us at info@halalfinder.com or call +1 718 822